All right, good morning. It's the Monday Morning Show. Today on the show we have a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, comedian Bill Campbell. Bill, how's it going?
Good, Sean. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
So, how did you get started in comedy?
I started a long time ago in the late 70s. There was no comedy clubs in Boston. I was young, and, most comics kind of think they're funny, and you just go try it.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of easy way into it. You put together a couple of things, and when I started, there was no comedy club, so I went to open stage thing. There'd be a folk singer, and mostly it's folk singers, and I had a couple of people comics, and you do 5 minutes. And I did a thing in Cambridge, I did a thing downtown, and I got a couple of laughs, so I figured I'd try it. Maybe I can do this. I remember being surprised. People actually laughed. I only did 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually 5 minutes. Then I went down to New York. I thought, well, I'm all set now. I'm going to get discovered. And I went down to the Improv for a Monday night. And in those days, they had an open mic stage on a Monday night at 10 o'clock. You signed up. I got there right at 10, and it was already completely filled. They had a legal pad of 3 or 4 pages, every line filled.
Yeah.
I got on at 3:45 in the morning. I performed to 2 other people who were coming on after me. Naturally, I totally bombed.
Yeah.
Took the bus home going, you don't know what you're doing here. Then around 1980, 79 or 80, I was doing gone shows, me and Mike Donovan, Teddy Bergeron, a few others. And then the Comedy Connection opened with Paul Barkley and Bill Downs. And that was the first kind of comedy club.
Yeah.
And we were doing an open stage, kind of each doing 10 minutes. And we had very small crowds. It was at the Charles Playhouse downtown in the basement of where Sheer Madness usually is now. It used to be anyway. And then one Thursday night, the Globe came and they did a story in the calendar section. And the next week, it was packed. It was unbelievable shock to us. We actually had people.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of a boom for about, oh God, how long it lasted? About 5 years maybe?
Yep.
Where comedy was just growing everywhere. And the Charles Playhouse started doing it on Friday and Saturday night, and Crimmins opened the Dane Ho, and it really started across the country. It's first in Boston and San Francisco, but then it just started going crazy everywhere. It was a fun time for us because we were all new to it. There was no established people,
Yeah.
Lenny Clark, Steve Sweeney, Don Gavin, Steve Wright, Bobcat Goldthwait. It's a whole bunch of us.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the Ding Ho, and I heard that comedians would perform there, but also hang out there.
Yeah, because the Comedy Connection was the first one, and Paul Barkley kind of ran it more like a booker a little more, where Crimmins was a comedian.
Yeah.
And then Crimmins would compete, so he would pay us a little better. And then he gave Lenny a night on a Wednesday night that got popular. So the Dean Hall became a favorite because he paid better and he treated us better,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hangout. They'd lock up the place after hours, and we'd party in the club after.
Yeah.
It was a wild place. Lenny and Martin Olson had a apartment that all the comics from out of town would hang in Cambridge. Everybody called it the Barracks.
Yeah.
Everybody was young. It was the 80s, and everybody was kind of equal. And then gradually, I think the first one was Steve Wright got discovered. And he did the Tonight Show, and that was the beginning of people started getting things. And money started to get popular, and money started to come into it, and gradually evolved into where we're at now.
I noticed, there's so many good comedians that came out of Boston and the Ding Ho. Do you know why that is? Why?
When comedians have a good place to work, where there's a good crowd and there's a supportive atmosphere, and you can really work. You're not up there battling the drunks yelling at you. You're not up there trying to perform to 3 people or perform to other comedians. When you have a crowd that really wants to come and see it, it will produce good comedians.
Yep.
Because comedians have a place to work. They work on it, and you get better. And the ones that have the real skills develop and kind of rise. And so the reason Boston and San Francisco at that time had so many good acts, like Ellen DeGeneres and Dana Carvey, because they had good clubs to work. The crowds were good. And in those days in Boston, the crowds were they just leap at you. They were ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe it was baby boomers' last shot at going out before they were all families with babies. I don't know. But the crowds were so good. The energy was so good. And there was no power structure. There was no headliner middle. He's so famous. Everybody's kind of equal. We're all struggling to kind of just work on our acts. And so it was a nice time to start. I mean, it gradually got to change, Things never stay the same in this business. It always changes.
Yeah. How did you develop your style of comedy?
When I was starting out, I was a big fan of George Carlin, Robert Klein, Richard Pryor. Those were my 3 that I looked up to, so I was some kind of conglomerate of them,
Yep.
Observational insights into my life, like Robert Klein or George Carlin or Pryor. Those are the guys I thought were the greatest, and so I probably had some form of that. It's a lot of observational stuff, and then what you do is you go try things, and what works you keep.
Yeah.
And what don't work, you don't keep doing it. It's a real trial and error kind of business. And gradually you find your own way. If you have some skills, you have to find your own voice to do it. You can't say, well, I'm going to do it like this, or this is what everybody wants. You can't do what you think is needed. You have to do what is unique to yourself. So sometimes it takes it a while, and sometimes it isn't as marketable as somebody else, but you have to do what works best for you. This is what I can do best. I'm a joke teller. I tell jokes, or I'm going to talk about things. I'm a storyteller person, or I'm a character. You have to find a way that fits your own personal voice.
Yep.
And when you do, then you just try and make it as the best you can and the most marketable you can.
Yeah. Okay. How did you come up with your one-man show, Parenting Story?
There was a guy that did a one-man show that was really successful. Defending the Caveman. You ever heard of that?
No.
This guy, Rob Becker, I think was his name. This must have been in the 90s or early 2000s. And everybody's doing comedy clubs. The comedy clubs were booming at the time, the Funny Bones, and there was all these comedy clubs, the Improvs. And as business waned a little, this one guy came up with a one-man show about men and women called it Defending the Caveman. And it was about how men are one way, they're hunters, and women are gatherers, and it was all about men and women and their differences. Some of it is standard stuff and some acts, but he had his own hit on it. He was a good act. And he put this one-man show together and did it at some improvs, I think, in Texas or somewhere, and it got real popular. Real popular. He was selling out, and he had his own audience, and he ended up bringing it to Broadway and doing it on Broadway for a couple of years. and everybody was looking for a new angle in the clubs as the business started to wane. I mean,
Yep.
so people started doing one-man shows. This guy was the most successful. So this was my attempt to do it. I also wanted to try something different, and I wanted to see if I could do it, because it's a little different. There's more acting, there's serious things in it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a challenge and fun to do, see if you can do, and see if there's a market. So I put it together. I like it. I've done it for many years. It's about my experiences raising my kids, and I wish I could have found more of a market for it.
Yeah.
But I was on, a lot of people did them, and you don't see them quite as much as you did 15 years ago or so. But I think there's a few Boston guys that did it, that did one-man shows.
I saw fairly recently Colin Quinn talking about shows that he's done.
What did he say about the one-man shows? He must have done one or two.
Yeah, he was talking about one that he did for about New York. I think because he grew up there and the different parts of New York. I think that's what it was about.
When you're doing a stand-up act, there's a rhythm to it, and you have to have a laugh every 15, 20, 30 seconds. You have a laugh,
Yeah.
And a real good show, people laugh the whole time. A one-man show, there's like a story to it. So you don't hit them real hard all the time. It won't work. People want to hear the story.
Yeah.
You introduce the story. They want to hear what happens or how the story goes. So you have to pace it a little different. So it's a challenge, and it's kind of fun. You're trying to pace it, and you're used to just hitting them hard because, in a stand-up act, you get them in the beginning, and the goal is to keep them the whole time.
Yeah.
And to end strong. And not have too many dips. Once you got them, and you hold them, and you hope you have them really going the whole time. But in a one-man show, there's a pacing thing. So you kind of introduce the story with a few laughs, and then you might have them really laughing, and then you slow it down and get it more into the story, introduce more serious thing, and then more laughs. So you intertwine the laughter with the serious moments. And if you do it well, they meld together. People don't notice it. But it's a different kind of skill. Some people are real good at it. Some are not good at it. They're used to just hitting them over the head with the laughs. And sometimes, I've noticed if I started to do that, it didn't work as good.
Yeah.
People wanted to hear what's going on with the story.
Yeah.
Stop trying to make us laugh. Tell us what's going on with this story. What happened then?
Yeah.
So it's a little different, and it's fun to do. It's challenging, of course,
Yeah, I imagine. It says, yours was 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I imagine that must have been a lot of work to write 90
Well,
minutes.
I used a lot of my stand-up act.
Oh, yeah.
I used parts of my act. And, it took some work to do. But, it's like you do it on the stage and you try it, and this works, this doesn't work. And the hard part is trying to get it all to work and still make it marketable to people.
Yeah.
As you're working on it. But there was a guy opened a club in Haverhill. Brian Longwell had his own little club in Haverhill, and he was encouraging people to try things. Every now and then there's movements to get people to try new things.
Yep.
I mean, there was some stuff, Garofalo, and some people started stuff in L.A., and then early 2000s, I think, and Dana Gould, where there would be places that would encourage people in L.A. or New York to not just do your act, to come up and do new stuff or do a story or do something different, kind of creative juices to get them going, and give a place for somebody to try something different. I mean, stand-up can become very repetitive.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing stuff on cats and dogs.
Yeah.
And so every now and then someone comes up with something to encourage people to try something different, and they tell you they will not penalize you if the crowd doesn't love you every minute of it, And there was one of those going on in Haverhill for a while, and that I went there to work on it, and they were really good to me. So I kind of worked it out there. Brian Lawnwell, another good comic, he has a one-man show now. He does. It's all about this men and work. Very funny. He draws these stick figures. It's very funny. But he, some comics, the one-man show and the different kind of thing fits their personality good.
Yeah.
They're really better at giving a little longer version and let them play with things, and you like them more than you do when it's hard-hitting joke-telling like Brian Kiley or Lenny Clark or somebody.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, speaking on doing something different, can you tell us about Campbell's Comedy Corner?
Yeah, I think late 90s, early 2000s, I was looking for something to do locally to kind of get my name around, and I started in the town. I live in Chelmsford, and I talked to the guy at the cable station about doing a show, and so I started to do this Campbell's Comedy Corner where I bring a comic in, and the format is I do like 3 or 4 minutes to a small audience in the studio at this cable station, and it's a live audience, and then I have a guest that does 10-minute set, and then we sit down and we do what I call talk shop, where we talk about stand-up stuff, kind of what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
How do you get your material? How do you get started? What do you do with hecklers? What do you do when you bomb? What's your best crowd? What's the difference between the older, younger audiences? How about swearing? What do you do when you offend people? All the different aspects of what this involves.
Yeah.
You talk with the comics, and, people like to hear the stories. Every comic has got a story of bombing.
Yeah.
And, I started doing it, and I was hoping that it would give me work. People would see it, and I would be able to sell it. That never really happened, but the people at the station were so great and so supportive that I just kept doing it. I was doing like 5 a year. Every couple months I do one. And the comics like it because I get a little audience that's really nice.
Yeah.
And, no comic likes to do a set before no people.
Yeah.
Like I said, good audiences bring good comics.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a little following of people in the area that come to the audience. It's free, but it's still hard to get people to come sometimes. But I have a stable of people to come. So if there's an audience, the comics like coming. They get a tape of the show. It plays it's only cable access, but it plays at a lot of places all around New England. Now I think they have some kind of distributing thing, Peg Media up in Maine, that distributes it throughout the country. So I'll get a call from someone up in Hoboken, Montana, playing my cable show.
Yeah.
The comics always say, "Yeah, I was up in Portland, Maine, and 2 o'clock in the morning. There your show is on."
Do you have new comedians or older comedians or mix?
I always have people I work with usually,
Yeah.
so that I know that I know what I'm putting forward.
Yeah.
And I don't do that many a year, so I usually know enough people that I can get somebody to come. And it's not a big moneymaker for the comics, but usually a weekday. And like I said, the audience is good. They have a fun time, and they help me out. And then it plays around, so they get a little publicity.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal for them, not a big deal for me, but it's a fun thing, and it's fun to do. People seem to like it.
Yep. Okay. Do you have any advice for new comedians?
First of all, it's a hard thing to do. But there's a lot of people that can do it. It's not just a few people that can do it. The hard thing is there is no easy way to do it. You just have to write down what you think is funny and go up and try it.
Yep.
Which is scary. It's scary for everybody. It's even scary after you've done it for a long time. It's always a little scary. But if you can get over that and go and try it, and you get a few laughs, you build off of that. And, sometimes a younger comic or people that want to do it, they want an easy way. Like, what do you do first? Do you take a class?
Yeah.
It isn't like you can work your way up to it. You just have to go try it.
Yeah.
And then you have to keep trying it. And when you don't do well, which happens, it doesn't happen all the time. If you have some ability to do it, usually you have some laughs fairly soon in the process. But you also have some times where nobody laughs.
Yeah.
And that's humiliating.
Yeah.
And that is part of what this is. Everybody has it. Everybody has it at all times. You take the funniest guy you know, and sometime during the course of that year, they had a show where they weren't laughing.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it. So you have to have a strong enough sense of who you are that you can handle that. But if you can handle that and you have some skills, you just keep doing it. And my advice would be do it what you think is funny, what you like, and what you think has worth. And try to make that work. And if it really doesn't work, then just go do something else, because it's hard.
Yeah.
But if you get laughs, it's enjoyable. It can even be like a drug. You just can't get enough of it.
Yeah. Okay, before I let you go, we have a part of the show called Questions from the Fans. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read you a few emails.
Sure.
Okay. First email is from Drake Caveman. Drake wants to know, who was the best person you have ever worked with, and who was the worst?
Oh. He wants a famous person, I suppose.
Sure, well, I guess whatever comes to mind.
You know, there's a lot of lot of nice people. Most of the comedians you work with are nice.
Yeah.
You know, some have big egos and they're so full of themselves you don't enjoy working with them. But most identify with you. They have to do it like you have to do it. And most of them are pretty nice. I mean, there's plenty of people that I remember working with. Who's the angry guy that's very successful now? He's been on
Louis Black?
Yeah, Louis Black. I did some shows with Louis Black. To me, you know, I've been doing this a long time. How funny you are does not impress me. There's a lot of comics better than me. So what? That doesn't mean you can be a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am not objective. I'm subjective. I see the people for how they treat me. And Louis Black is just a nice guy. Louis Black off stage was a really nice guy. And he's, of course, very funny.
Yeah.
So I like him, you know. Anybody's nice to you. And I have a few others that are not so nice off the stage. They compete with you, you know. So they feel the need to make sure you don't do as good as them. And those are not the nice ones.
Yeah.
I'd rather not say all the names, but there are some like that. And that's just part of it.
Yeah.
But the majority of people are just, they're so into worrying about what they're going to do, they don't even think about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The goal is, how do I make sure that I don't look bad here?
Yeah. Okay, next email is from Marty Millsap. Marty wants to know, why do you hate yard sales?
I hate yard sales because my wife loves them, and I hate going to them because she always buys us stuff that we don't need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, I end up walking around. She sees all this stuff. I've been to a lot of yard sales with my wife. She loves them, picks up all this junk that we don't need.
Yeah.
We bring it home, and I'm going, where are we going to put this? I don't know. It must be something we could use this for. You know, yeah, well, I don't know of any reason.
Yeah.
So they have aggravated me. I don't think I'm the only person been aggravated by going to yard sales with their wife.
Yeah.
But my wife loves them. My wife just loves to get a bargain, you know.
Yeah.
So I love her, so I've been to a lot of yard sales.
Yeah. Okay, our last email is from Bob Jacobs. Bob wants to know, what's your opinion on joke stealing?
Well, joke stealing is a hard part of the business. People do it. There's some famous comics that do it and get away with it because they're famous.
Yeah.
And it's not a nice part of the business because some people do it and no one knows about it except the comics. And you try to police yourself, but it's pretty hard to do. You know, some people say, well, you get a sense when you're watching a comic that you've seen and you've known for a long time when they're doing your stuff. And it's a feeling you get because a lot of people do the same material. You know, like I've had a bit about being a comedian and this and that. And it's you know, how everybody wants to make them laugh when they hear you're a comedian. Now that is a standard topic. A lot of comics got bits around it. So if someone's doing the topic that you do, that's not upsetting. Everybody does this, you know. But every now and then you see someone using the rhythm and the words, and you go, that's not just the same topic. That's my bit.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's offensive. That's not right. And the hard part is not much you can do. You can moan and complain, and you can go up to them and say something. They usually deny it. Oh, I didn't see you. I never saw that. You do that?
Yeah.
And, you know, you just go your own way. You try not to let it bother you. It's your joke. I keep doing it. I never stop doing it because someone else is doing it. For instance, I've been doing a bit for, 30 years about socks. You know, how you always, you know, you can't find socks in your drawer. There's always one sock. You're always missing socks.
Yeah.
Now, Seinfeld has a bit about that. But I didn't steal it.
Yeah.
I never saw his bit when I did mine. Now, people can look at it, and I don't even know what his bit is like. I just know the topic is the same, and it's Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So, but I don't steal stuff. I think it takes away from your feeling about yourself. So, but you have to have a feeling that it's about you and not about the business, because the business will not always reward you for being ethical.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that steal that do real well because they're good acts. Some acts are really funny guys. They're just not writers. You know, they're very funny, though. So if they can take your joke and go do it, hey, all the better.
Yeah.
Because they're good.
Yep.
They just don't come up with good ideas.
But the comedians know in the community,
sometimes
right?
They know, sometimes they don't. You know.
Yeah.
You know, there's some well-known people doing jokes that most of the people don't know. Nah, that's not their bit.
Yeah.
You'd have to be around the people whose bit they're using to know. You have to be in the comedy community of that generation, of that era, or that geographical location to kind of know, oh, boy, that's not really his.
Yeah.
It's tricky to catch them. You know, if they travel, you know, I started in Boston, but I've been in L.A. for the last 20 years, and all of a sudden you see him and you go, wow, that's a Boston guy joke.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well.
I always say if the comic comes up to you and goes, wow, I really love that one thin of yours, watch out.
Yeah.
They like it a little too much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, well, I think that's all the questions I had. I know people can go to BillCampbellComedy.com to find out more about you. Anything you have?
Always looking for work, and I do all kinds of things, and I can get comics for people, and they go to my website and contact me. I'm going to be at Pat's Peak up in New Hampshire on New Year's Eve.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
And all right, Sean. Good luck to your show.
Yeah,
Thanks
hopefully I can talk to you again sometime.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Bye.